Call to order the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment, December 1st, 2011 meeting. Our reminder to turn off your cell phones if you haven't already. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the November 3rd, 2011 meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Mr. Baker abstains. Because you were absent, yes. We have a continuance request from staff, case number 13486, to defer to January the 5th, 2012. Would entertain a motion to approve that continuance request. Is there anybody from the public that's here regarding that case? It's case number 13486. It would be case number 8 in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Register your vote. Continuances request. Are there any other continuous requests from staff?
We have none.
Any continuous requests from the public? Hearing none, I'd like to hear our first case.
Item number 1, case number 13480, request of Genghis Grill for a variance to permit accessory attached signs exceeding the maximum allowed size located at 2121 West Memorial.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Mike Pierce, 4517 East 141st Place South, Bixby, Oklahoma.
And would you like to address your application?
Yes, sir. We just have a hardship that we don't feel like we can be seen from the main intersection there. And I've got some pictures for you that are a little more clear. If I could give those Ms. Kasula and let her pass those around. What you have there on the first page is there they are right there. The first page is just other businesses in PUD 98, all of which have more signage than we do on at least 3 sides of buildings. And that's all. We're not asking for any more than anybody else has. But that's the busiest intersection, or one of the busiest intersections, I'm told, in Oklahoma. And when cars are turning right there on North Penn, you can't see our sign. So we're just trying to make sure we're successful.
And I'm sure you're aware that the amount of signage that's allowed is determined by the width of the building and the building setback. So some of the other examples that we're citing may have larger signs, but they may be larger spaces.
It doesn't feel that way. I'm 125 feet down the side of that building and 50 feet across the front. So it doesn't. I feel like I'm bigger than Radio Shack. They got bigger and more signs than I do. Just right behind me, due north. So
I was out there this morning and looking at your signs. Your signs are larger than Smashburger's signs are.
I have twice as many square feet as Smashburger
Well, I
has.
know, but I mean, signage is signage. I mean, I understand that your deal wouldn't be exactly the same as theirs, but I'm just saying you're talking about a general visibility issue. And the 2 signs that you have up on the building are highly visible from, the one on the front is highly visible from the intersection, and the other one is visible from Pennsylvania, which is what you're trying to track. If you have this other one on the side of the building, I believe it's side of the building is blocked by Bank of America's building there.
I did take a picture on page 2 of what that directly from that intersection. So I understand if you're in the far left lane, you can barely see the sign.
Right.
But if you look at that picture there, that's directly from the corner of the intersection. There, you can't see that front of the building at all. And there are 4 shots of that from behind. And
Well, I understand that maybe not particularly every single angle where you see and the only way you do that is to have a continuous sign all the way around your space.
that'd be great.
Yeah. But it's not allowed. And my question is that, I mean, your signage is pretty large anyway. The square footage that's on the front of the building, it's about twice the size of Smashburger's signs. Each individual sign is. And then you got the road sign out there in front that's on the small pylon out in front. And I have difficulty seeing the hardship over any other businesses out there.
Well, and then what do we do when the other businesses come and they want to enlarge their signs?
Right.
To match the size of his?
Right.
Well, there's quite a few examples there. If you're speaking to other businesses that have a lot more signage than I do, I know we've got at least twice the square footage of a Radio Shack. They have bigger and another sign than we do. So we're just trying to get something on the north side, which is the back of the building. You can't see us at all. So, and I did go through the trouble of trying to bring all this to you on 6 pages of make it easy, but I understand. We just feel like it's a hardship, and signage is key. So.
Mr. Pierce, you say in your application it is standard identification for Genghis Grill franchise to advertise on their premises on all elevations of their building. Is this something that, what you're requesting, is this something that is imposed on you by the corporation, or is this just something that...
Well, it's both. If you go to Moore, Oklahoma, we're really successful there. We have a 7-foot tall by a 32-foot sign on the front of that building. I believe that has a lot to do with our success. You can't drive down I-35 without seeing us sit in front of the Best Buy. So we have 2 signs on the side. So, and the city would allow us to do one on the back. The landlord would not. So I'll put as many signs as I can. So, and we have 2 in Tulsa as well. Both have signs on front, side, and back. So.
But I guess what I'm asking, the corporation does not require that you all have signs on all sides, or does it?
They do require it, but that's why I'm here today. And it's a joint venture with corporate, so I'm half owned by corporate. So I'm just a small business guy. I'm not big Genghis. So.
Do you have something that shows that requirement by the parent company?
I do not today. I can get a letter. If y'all want a letter from the CEO, he would write, he'll do whatever you need. These are smaller signs than we have in any other. We own 7 Genghis Grills in Arkansas and Oklahoma, and these are the smallest signs I have. So I understand they might be larger than Smashburger, but I'm leasing twice the square footage. So
even with that, you're about twice the size of our code, or you're requesting almost twice the size of our code. And as the chairman indicated, it's the width of the lot plus the setback determines that sign size.
Yes, sir.
And I can't see us going that much larger with the sign, and it is visible, like was indicated a while ago, from just about any way you want to come up to that building.
I disagree with that, but just about any way. You can't see it from the north, and you can't see it from the east.
Well, you can't see it from the north because it's blocked off.
From Best
You'd
Buy.
have to have an elevated sign to see it from the north.
Yes, sir. Would you guys let us have one of those 2 signs? We'd like to put one on the back and one on the side right there, if you'd let us have just one of them. We're just trying to be successful. We're adding 50 jobs in Oklahoma. We added 50 and more. We're just trying to be successful and not be out of business next year. So.
Every business would make that same argument. There's nothing unusual about that. We still have to deal with the code issue that the code was created for a certain purpose. Okay, and you have to convince us that there's some reason outside of everybody wanting to be successful or everybody wanting maximum signage.
I guess I'm just confused. The only thing that confused me, if nobody else had it, I wouldn't be in here asking, but every single other business has it on the front, side, and back. We're the only one that is being
It may
told
be,
no.
but these are all different kinds of businesses, different size businesses, and that type of thing, and at different time periods too. Okay, this is our ordinance today. This is what we deal with. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the 2 signs that are up there right now?
Yes, sir.
Do they meet the ordinance?
They
we
do,
know?
yes. My sign company's here, contractor's here with me.
Can you address that? Do they meet the ordinance that's up there right now?
Yes, when we made application, we applied for all 4 signs that you've seen on these drawings, and the city did approve 2 based on the allowable square footage that was allowed.
And do those 2 signs max out the sign requirement on that building? Or is there anything left out of that?
Actually, the one on the front maxed out the signs that they could have on the front elevation.
Okay.
And he had enough left over because of his square footage to allow the one on the side on the back.
Okay.
So we really didn't address it. The one on the side on the back is not on a street frontage, and the one on the north is not on a street frontage, but it's visible from the intersection after you exit Kilpatrick Turnpike onto the one-way. That's the only way you see them until you go across the intersection, and now you're on Memorial past the intersection. Get up there. If you're not going that way, you wouldn't know they're there. You can't see the monument sign. You can't see the front elevation sign. But then on the back of the sign, back of the building, if you're leaving the shopping area to the north or the one over west of that where the Best Buy is, there's just a blank wall for Smashburger and for Genghis Grill. So there's nothing on the north wall at all. We don't have a code addressing that because it's really, that's like a street that's not defined as a main artillery street. It doesn't serve anything other than people getting in and out of that shopping area.
Right.
And that's where he's wanting to be identified, coming out of Best Buy from the west, going out towards Penn, or people that are in that shopping center to the north could see him from across the shopping center way. So he's applying for those. There isn't really anything that addresses that as far as the code goes, because we were addressed by what was on the frontage of Memorial, and that was what he allowed. And the gentleman that processed the permits gave us the extra one because we had leftover footage. And so they're both permitted by what was allowed. Anything on the side and back, it's just up to you to decide.
Do they max out the signage on the building?
Yes. For
Did he
the
max
front
it out?
building and the side, he gave us that out of what was allowed for the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is some argument, I suppose, that there are a lot of signs that have been placed in the back of a number of those buildings around there. And I wouldn't be opposed to a little small one on the back. I don't think there needs to be anything else on the side of the building. But, what would be the size of the one you'd put on? What's the smallest one you could put on the back?
I think a 4 foot tall is the smallest one we have at Genghis. Those right there, I believe, Richard, aren't those 5 foot tall? Those are 5s.
That's the sign that's 86 square feet, I believe.
86 square feet. He's got a smaller one. He's got a 4 footer.
Yes, sir. I do have a 4 footer. If that,
Okay.
as
Just
far
to-
as aesthetic, it might look better just to be the same, but that's just a.
I would just to get the conversation started here, I would vote to approve the application for the two that are on the building right now, which is the front of the building and then on the drive-through, and then a 4 by. What size is that one? Is that 17 and a half too?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
4 by up to 17 and a half on the back of the building.
Do we have a rendering of that sign or not? Because the one that I'm looking at is 5 foot by 17 foot 4. Is that the one you're referring to?
I don't know the dimensions by heart. I work off the height. So 5 by, it's roughly.
Is it the one that's shown on the screen right now?
That right there is the side view. The north view is right there.
But is that the sign that we're talking about?
We would
that we're
like to
gonna
do a
consider?
5 by 17 foot 4. Yes,
The
sir.
one in the back, I'm recommending a 4 foot tall sign.
And can that be done?
Yes, sir. Anything y'all say
It'll
can
be
done.
it'll be smaller than this.
It'll be smaller than that.
It'll be 4 foot by
Whatever the dimension. We
Whatever
wouldn't
the-
change. We
whatever
wouldn't
the,
try to stretch it.
Proper
the
dimension.
proper
is,
dimension would be
Yeah,
the
yeah.
proportion of the
Genghis
sign.
wouldn't let us stretch it to whatever he wanted.
It's probably, yeah. Maximum of 17 and a half feet, maximum. That is motion.
I'd second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Item number 2, case number 13482, request of Mass Architects for a variance to the 15-foot side yard setback located at 3101 Southwest 24th Street.
Name and address, please.
Matthew Radcliffe on behalf of Mass Architects. We're at 18 West Park Place, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73103.
And you'd like to address your application?
Yes, we're hired by OC Maps to renovate and add on to the Rockwood Elementary School. This school is a historic school originally built in 1936, added on 10 years after that, and again 10 years after that. The site has some peculiar issues with grade changes. The original building was a two-story building. The last addition was a single-story addition to the north that is set a full story lower. So we effectively have a three-story building. As we have tried to isolate all of the issues that are required to meet the program set forth by the district, as well as some water and site infiltration, we really needed to add 4 classrooms to the south side of the building. The best way for us to do that was to actually complete the original 1936 design, which was to have this particular wing on the south side of the original building. But to go to that original 1936 design put us 6 foot 6 inches over the current 15-foot building line. We have opted to apply for this application and move forward, given that this would help us to maintain our budget and fulfill the requirements of the school in the education space, and does not really hinder any site visibility issues with the property. There is a commercial zone church directly across the street, so we're not really impeding upon any other residential areas, and it would benefit by kind of screening the expanded parking lot just to the west.
Are you aware of any objections to this?
No.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3, case number 13483, request of Prestige Custom Homes for a variance to the minimum 50-foot lot width requirement located at 2932 Northwest 156th Street.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I represent the applicant on this item.
And your address, please, for the record.
I beg your pardon?
Your address.
10804 Quail Plaza, Oklahoma City.
Speak to your application.
I feel we have met all the requirements for the variance. The reason we're asking for it is that with times being as tough as they are, the smaller buildings they seem to be selling considerably faster, and the addition is in fact filling up, and we have a need for 2 smaller buildings on this lot. Therefore, we come in with the request.
Is anybody in protest?
No protesters. Anybody here to speak to this case from the public? None that I'm aware of.
Making a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 4, case number 13484, request of Jeffrey McDougall Revocable Trust for a variance to permit a 8-foot-tall wrought iron front yard fence with stone columns located at 14400 Gaillardia Lane.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Oklahoma City. And with me today is Bill Gummerson and Bob McCutcheon, also representing the applicant. This is a very large estate-type home that's being constructed in Gaillardia. As you know, Gaillardia is a gated community. The application is to allow for 8-foot-tall columns, but a much lower open wrought iron fence. And I know the concern of the staff, as pointed out very well in the staff report, is that the intent of the ordinance is to keep from blocking the front view of the homes. So this is a view from a rendering from the common area, which is immediately west of where this house is being constructed. And you can see with the rendering and the pickets for the wrought iron fence that it doesn't obstruct the view at all. This allows for the continued estate look that was anticipated with the design, and some gate control at their driveways. This is not uncommon for this development. These are a few of the other locations in the development where additional wrought iron fences were constructed on individual homes, mostly down in this area. These estate lots over here, there's only, I think, 3 or 4 houses in here. There's a few vacant lots still left, but the red dot is where this house is being built, immediately adjacent to the golf course. This has gone before the Homeowners Association for Ghilardi and has been approved. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Gummerson's asked to speak too, if you would like. Only if needed, okay.
Since the HOA's approved this and the neighbors are not objecting, I would move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 5, case number 13485, request of Aaron St. Cyr for a variance to the sign regulations of the home occupation ordinance located at 2701 Northwest 63rd Street.
I'll give it to her after.
I'm Randy Hill with E.D. Hill Surveying and Engineering, representing the applicant, and the applicant, Aaron St. Cyr, is here as well. I think there were some people who signed up to speak, and I might let them speak, and then I could address their concerns, if that so pleases the board.
That would be fine.
Okay.
I would like to invite Terry Masters. Mr. Masters, if you will, give us your name and address for the record, please.
Terry Masters. I'm on here on behalf of Nancy Masters, my wife. We live at 2 different residences. I live at 2853 Northwest 20th Street in Oklahoma City. She's at 2651 Northwest 63rd.
Okay. Go ahead and speak to the application.
Okay. We had sent a letter describing that particular corner as being a dangerous corner. My son was back-ended there. I actually witnessed another accident happening there. It's unfortunately, Miller is an alternate route from May to 63rd and also from 63rd to May. So there's a lot of traffic that goes back and forth. There's really not much available parking along that way, so there's a parking issue. But I also have an issue with the fact, and might I say that Mr. St. Cyr's house is very nice looking. As a residential home, it's very presentable. He's done a lot of work on it. It's very impressive. My concern is it changes the dynamics when you put a sign out there. And actually, we haven't really been against him doing his business in there. And he's had that for quite a while. The sign itself changes the dynamics from being a residential house to a commercial. And I've been told by an attorney and also by a real estate agent from Keller Williams that it can affect property value when you're adjacent to a business. I've been told by his attorney that it's not really there for people to drive in. But when I drive by and I see a sign, I usually want to drive in to see what it's about. It's also a dangerous location for a sign because that is there's a crest of a hill that goes over 63rd, and when you come over that, anybody slowing down to kind of see what it is just presents a hazard. There's been 5 wrecks there just since we've been there. So anyway, that and the parking issue I think is a real issue because it bottlenecks when there's anybody parking on the street there, and there really is no access for parking. And we're the one most affected, actually, because we're right across the street from the front. He's changed the front of his entrance that faces 63rd to now the front of the entrance is on Miller. But I do wish him the best for his business. I'm not here to take away his business, although it may seem like it, but his positive would be my loss.
All right. Well, I appreciate your comments. I would like to, if we can excuse you, and I would like to invite Sue Hobbs to address the board.
My name is Sue Hobbs. I have property at 2712 Northwest 64th Street, which is on the street behind 63rd and down about a half a block. I've lived in the Treadwell, Grandview area since 1952. I grew up in this house and bought a house just a few blocks away and have lived there all but 4 years of my life. And we just have some concerns. I agree with Mr. Masters. Everything he said is, I won't be redundant. Everything he said, I agree with. I do have some concerns in addition of what kind of business is being operated there. I'm not sure. He's mentioned he's a graphic artist, but I don't know exactly what he does. How many businesses are being run out of there? I've found several websites that have the address of 2701 Northwest 63rd as their address. I don't know how many people actually live in the house. I don't know if he lives in the house. He has improved the property, but like Mr. Messer says, by putting a sign there, it screams this is a commercial property, and it will impact the entire area. I understand that they had maybe considered getting it zoned as commercial, but that if that happened, then it's a domino effect. That entire side of 63rd would become commercial, and it would then definitely impact the entire neighborhood. So today, if you can't reach a vote, I would at least like to the motion to be tabled for further research and some questions to be answered. I've been out of town for about 6 weeks attending to an ill sister out of state, and I just got back in town on Monday and found out about this, so I quickly contacted Mr. Chambliss with a complaint, and I haven't had time to do a lot of research on it. Or I am representing several of the neighbors who couldn't be here. I do have another gentleman with me, and that he's lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. A number of the people have lived there, 15, 20, 30 years. And we're just concerned that this is going to impact the residential value of the neighborhood.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your comments. I would like to invite the applicant's representative back.
Yes.
And if you would give us your name and address again, please, for the record.
I'd like to hand out something.
We'll hand them down here.
This is an aerial photograph of the area. Just I wanted you to be able to see the impact that the Bell switching unit has on the property. And
Sir, could I ask you your name
I'm
and address,
sorry, Randy
please?
Hill with E.D. Hill Surveying and Engineering Company.
And your address?
510 Colcord Drive, Oklahoma
Thank you.
City. Sorry about that. And so you can see the impact that the Bell switching unit has on the property.
I guess my question would be why, how is that relevant?
Excuse me?
How is that relevant?
Well, it's a peculiar piece of property, and because of the Bell actually purchased the backyard of this property and has a switching unit that occupies most of the backyard. And that's one of the things that makes this peculiar. As a result, it was before Mr. St. Cyr purchased it, previous owners, it had gone through previous ownerships, and it had become rental property. It had been allowed to run down, and really was an eyesore to the neighborhood. I have a photograph of what it looked like before Mr. St. Cyr purchased the property. You can kind of see what it was, and that was because I think of this switching unit that was located in the back that really didn't make it viable for most people to use as a single-family home. After coming back from Iraq, Mr. St. Cyr purchased the property. He's continually made improvements. I think everybody will say that they're pleased with the improvements he made. Now, he did not reorient the driveway over there, so to speak. There was already a garage on to Miller Avenue when he purchased the property. But he has basically taken out the garage that faced 63rd Street, so he no longer uses it, and no longer the concrete there doesn't go all the way up to the house there as well, and he has made that a part of the interior of the house. But he has continually made improvements to the property. But in making this, in having his home occupation there as a design studio, he feels that to legitimize his business, he really needs to have a sign there for it. We have revised our sign just a little bit, and from what you see right there in that drawing, it's going to be a slate sign, and it's got a photograph of it here. And we think that it will be in keeping with as nice as he's made the property already. I also have a number of letters and to the board from various nearby property owners, two of which are on either side of him, behind and next door, saying that they support the sign in this location. They support Mr. St. Cyr being here. What an improvement he's made to the neighborhood, and so they're in favor of the sign. I was a little surprised Mr. Masters came down opposed to the sign. Mr. Masters' wife, who lives across Miller there, she actually had a home occupation as a painter and design and teaching people to paint, and actually constructed 2 4x4 posts to erect her own sign on her property, and had actually contacted Aaron to see if he would design the sign for her. I've got a photograph of 4x4 posts were constructed on that property to hold up a sign immediately across Miller. We feel that this is not going to create a problem for the neighborhood. It's not going to devalue anything. We feel that there is a hardship to the property because of the switching unit on it, and we'd respectfully ask for the board's approval of this very small ground sign that will identify the property.
Just a couple of questions so I can get my bearings straight. Is this across the street from Ross Park?
Yes, it is across from an apartment complex.
And a multifamily that's to the
multifamily directly across the street, as you can see from the aerial there.
Sure.
And then there's an office building, just the park comes onto 63rd for just a small ways, and then there's an office building. It's a cancer center, I believe.
And then on the...
where it says O2. And then further back to the west, you've got a big shopping center. It was the old French Market Mall.
But on the north side of the street, and on the north side of 63rd to the west, isn't there like a Cleaners and some other
There is.
businesses
At the
that
next
are
corner of the next street, there is a Cleaners there that's been remodeled.
And that operates out of originally a
home. What was
single
a home.
family.
Right.
That's zone commercial, though, I think. Scott Cleaners, they're zone commercial, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And then how tall is the sign?
And we're talking, no more than 3 feet, more like 2 feet tall. It's going to be on the backside of a site triangle. There's actually a platted site triangle on this corner, and it will be behind the site triangle. And so it will not cause a problem as far as sight along 63rd Street. I don't know if any of you have driven down 63rd Street there, but on most afternoons the traffic is backed up to this street from the increased traffic at Chesapeake and the Sunflower Market that's located around the corner.
And will there be landscaping with the sign?
Yes, there will be landscaping with the sign.
What does our ordinance allow for a home-based sign? Is it strictly on the house, or can it be out in the yard?
Home occupation, one of the conditions of the home occupation ordinance is that you cannot have any signs. And that's his request.
That's why we're here today.
Is to allow for this sign in association with the home occupation.
So he couldn't even have a sign on the building or in the window or anything like that? It can't be identified, but you still can have the
That's correct.
That's basically why we're here today. Is
The intent, I believe, is to allow, if you're a professional and you want to, run a very low-key business out of a portion of your house without changing the character of the neighborhood, then it's allowed.
right.
And there are some restrictions on, what you can do and what you can't do. And one of the restrictions is no sign. And I think that's part of the objection. I think, nobody's arguing the fact that he's a good neighbor. Nobody's arguing the fact that the property has certainly been improved and cleaned up. All those are assets. What they're concerned about, I think, is beginning to change the character from a residential neighborhood to a more commercial. And Ms. Hobbs makes reference to the fact that there may be several businesses who are registered to that address. And your request is for a sign to
There's just
raise
one.
the profile of the design business.
There's just one business. It's just a design studio.
Are there other businesses registered to that address? Any other names? Any other businesses?
Well, the actual registered, that's his doing business as name, but the actual registered name is AAST Design LLC. Yeah, so that, but it's it's doing business as Driven Design.
And the applicant, provided us a letter and some photographs, which indicate that the business is essentially run, off a computer and a fax machine. And so it makes me wonder why the request for a sign if the intent is not to drive traffic to the location.
Well, and matter of fact, it's not to drive to the location, although it kind of legitimizes his business to have a sign, legitimizes the fact of what he is. That he is a design studio. Just like the lady across the street, she wanted to have a sign for her, for a design studio for her art.
Then maybe the thing to do is to run the business, and as the business grows, then it may be appropriate, and the business may require a larger space, and at that point you take a commercial building where the signage is.
If it did require more space, if he doesn't have any employees, so if it did require more space, he would move. He loves the neighborhood. He would want to stay in the neighborhood. He's put in polished wood floors in the house and all stainless steel appliances in the kitchen. I mean, he's fixed it up very nicely to live in. And so yeah, he wants to stay there.
But he really nobody's arguing that the house hasn't been improved, and nobody is arguing with the fact that he has every right to run a business out of that house as long as it conforms to, the home occupation restrictions.
Yeah.
But I have trouble understanding why the need for a sign. And, that corridor is becoming increasingly busy. The ability to turn back east is difficult because of the rise of the road and the sight lines. And, if somebody is traveling west, by the time they top that hill and see the sign, is it your intention to, and if somebody sees that sign, I mean, what does it mean if you don't have some association of, what kind of business it is?
Well, if you're trying to find where he is, it'll help.
But you're not trying to drive traffic to that location.
And we're not trying to drive traffic to it, but he gets deliveries there every day, and that. So I mean, it would be helpful to him if he could have a sign out there, and we believe that the landscape sign and the small, low profile that he's proposed is not going to be a detriment to the neighborhood.
Well, I mean, the neighbors, take issue with that.
Well,
They feel like it begins to change the character of the neighborhood.
Two of the neighbors do, but we have a lot that don't as well.
But let me ask you, I understand that you're saying that your purpose is not to drive traffic, but wouldn't you concede that the effect would be to drive traffic? I mean, if you have this sign there, this graphic sign on the corner, and people are interested, where would they park?
There is parking. I mean, he has parking there, but it's not to bring parking to it. It's just to legitimize his business that he runs out of his home.
Do you think, though, that it would?
Well, I don't know. It's if you saw a sign that said Driven Design Studio, I'm not sure you'd stop by. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that is going to make drive-by customers want to stop in.
But part of what the sign could do, too, is somebody that drove by and saw that sign could be led to believe that this is, in fact, a storefront, and it is, to be considered a decoration if they were, in in line for design services and wanted to know more about that business. So, I'm sure it would acquaint the community with the name of the business, but I think it would most certainly.
Does he live there? Mr. St. Cyr live there?
I'm sorry.
Does Mr. St. Cyr live there?
Yes, he does.
He does.
Yes.
Okay. So there is a residential component to this, even though there is something in the backyard, right?
Right.
Okay. So what differentiates this from any other place then? Why not put a sign in front of any yard?
Well, because, as we stated in our application and I mentioned earlier, that with this property had become run down as a result, that most people didn't see it as fit for single-family residential.
But it fits his need. He lives there and he conducts a home-based business there.
It does, but
Okay.
his home.
And they're everywhere. People operate these things out of their home everywhere.
But his home-based business there on 63rd would be, it would give him legitimize his business to have the sign.
Well, but you could say that about every home-based business that operates in Oklahoma City. That there's some amount of traffic that goes by up and down streets everywhere in Oklahoma City.
And some of them go ahead and put up signs without asking, but.
Well, it could be, but we
we're
can't
asking
control
him.
that. But people can complain about that, or somebody can, we can do something about that or cite that. But the point is what's unique about this situation. If you do this one, when the next guy walks in and says, "I want to put up a sign in front of my house because I operate a little business," we don't have an argument about that.
Well, I think this is a peculiar piece of property.
Why? Every house up and down the street then can ask for the same thing.
Yeah, because.
Right? I mean, isn't that correct?
Oh, they could.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't think they have the same circumstances as this property.
Why is that?
Because of the peculiarness of the no backyard for it.
Well, he lives there.
Yeah.
And he's probably not the only person that could live in that house, even with that in the backyard. I just don't see that there's a component here that makes that house. If he would say, well, that house is unlivable because of that deal in the backyard. If there was something about that caused that to be unlivable. If you had radiation coming out that says you can't do that, but you could be there 6 hours a day or something. But I just can't see that the argument here is that there's something different about that particular house. Not enough to say, I want to change a whole neighborhood over a sign out in front.
I think if we allow this one, I think we're going to be flooded with. I run a home-based business, and it's a legitimate business, and I sure don't have a sign up. But I just think we'll be making a mistake, and with that, I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please.
Would this be a situation where maybe an SPUD that might put other restrictions on it would be beneficial? JJ.
Sounds like the planning commission.
I don't think we would support a rezoning application at that location, given that really you're in the middle of a stretch of single-family homes. I think at best a variance to the sign regs was the best application you could make in this case.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your vote. Sorry, sir, you are denied.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 13487, request of the City of Oklahoma City for a variance to permit a 6-foot-tall fence in the front yard and to allow a fence and landscaping in the site triangle located at 1123 Northeast Grand Boulevard.
Hello, I'm Todd Woodward with the City of Oklahoma City, Maps for Kids office. We have an existing school site, and we're just asking for a replacement fence in the location that the existing fence was in. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. We're actually backing this new fence up further away from the curb than where the existing fence was. We've already removed the existing fence, but we've moved the new. The proposed location for the new fence is about 10 feet back from the line where the existing fence was, further away from the curb.
Can you address the site triangle again here?
Since the property line is so far away from the curb, the site triangle extends perpendicular. I don't have the location of the site triangle on the site plan there, but it's actually a very odd-shaped site triangle, which we are in. Where the proposed fence is in the site triangle, and the landscaping is in the site triangle.
And this is one way going south, right turn.
That is correct. This is the realignment of Grand Boulevard. You can see on that site plan the old location of the northbound lane, but that has been removed now by ODOT and the City of Oklahoma City. So the new lane is a two-way, the new street is a two-way street. We already do have a, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
We do have a variance for the drop-off lane and a revocable permit. We've already come before you and requested that.
And just so I'm clear, this is a replacement fence, and there's no opposition been raised.
That is correct. We're actually moving the fence further away from the curb than where the original fence was.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Register your vote. You are approved.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Your name, sir?
My name is John Love, L-O-V-E. I live at 1422 Northwest 38th Street in Old Putnam Heights. I was wondering if there was an application by a David Cook on today's agenda to reconvert an original duplex back to the duplex use.
I'm sorry, sir. That was the case that was continued at the first of the meeting. I don't know whether you were present at that time, but that case has been continued to January the 5th of 2012.
I see.
So it will be heard. So if you want to participate in that hearing, January the 5th of 2012, back here.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I live diagonally across the street, and I am most in favor of Mr. Cook's
Well, we'll
proposal.
look forward to seeing you at that meeting then, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 13488, request of Hushman Saidi for a variance to the required 500-foot separation from a church to locate an adult entertainment use located at 4700 South I-35 Service Road.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Al Hoke, 803 Robert S. Kerr, and I'm the attorney for the applicants.
Okay.
I'm Jerry Elledge, 16603 Railhead Drive, Choctaw, Oklahoma, 73020.
And just briefly, what's being asked for is a variance from the 500-foot restriction for an adult entertainment facility within 500 feet of a church. They'd started the work on this area previously. They'd requested about a year or so ago on an ABC3 license, which was granted to them. And since that time, they've started preliminary designs. They've held up on having the architects and engineers draw everything, but some dirt work is done there to address the issues that are before us today. The hardship goes to they're starting on dirt work and leveling it. The owner of this property, Said, also owns the car lot that's adjacent to this. He's planning on splitting that property and building a building which would either be a brick or stucco exterior on it to conform with aesthetic designs. In this case, the hardship also goes to the time they've invested in that. As far as the conditions that are peculiar to this property, it's on I-35 on a service road with the traffic flow there for people in the area and tourists. It's a one-way access road. It provides easy access and exit to the property. and there's also a substantial area for parking and for the facility there. In the area, there's a bingo facility that backs up to the church that's already there. It's in a shopping center area. The church itself is across the interstate highway. The highway where it's raised, there's not even a line of sight between the two. There's a hotel property, there's some other commercial properties, liquor stores in the area, and then behind this area, or adjacent to this area they're wanting to build at, is just an empty field. In this case, there were some other clubs in the area, but the area is mostly commercial with some industrial area. The minimum necessary variance is the 500-foot variance they're requesting. It's not something that's going to detract from the area. In fact, it's something that would actually bring more revenue to the area, update the area. Adjacent to them, there's a hotel that in the last year since they requested their license for the alcohol, the only thing that's been done to that is painting some of the outside. It's still boarded up on the back side that would be adjacent to their club area. There's a dance studio or something that's on the other side of where the car lot is, that there's already a privacy fence, which the applicants here are willing to extend the privacy fence up. There has been some crime in the area, that burglaries and things like that, and the club would be open until 2 o'clock with substantial lighting in the parking lot with their own security, not only inside and out, but also cameras on the outside and additional lighting. And with people cleaning up, someone would be in the area with lighting in the parking lot at least until 3 o'clock every morning, which goes to prevent burglaries and provide security for the area. Also, it improves the area other than just having vacant fields where people may be hanging out or whatever. Additionally to that, it brings a source of revenue for the city in the form of taxes. Obviously, the beer taxes would go into that. They don't intend on doing liquor or anything at this time. Simply, it's a beer bar, which would have security cameras, security personnel, and the signage wouldn't say anything about gentlemen's club, adult entertainment, strippers, anything like that. All it's going to have is a sign that would say Blue Diamond Cabaret, and they aren't going to have silhouettes of girls or anything like that. So as far as that, it wouldn't be something that would distract from the area or distract drivers in the area. It's just something to notify those that wish to come there of where it is. And since the only issue statutorily and by code at this time is the variance from the church, I think we've shown sufficient reasons to have the variance from the church. I do believe some people were here that might have wanted to speak that had the dance studio. I'm not sure if anybody else is or not.
We do have a request from Russell Hunt. If we could excuse you, gentlemen, and invite Mr. Hunt forward at this time.
Also got some more gentlemen here that would like to speak also. I'm Russell Hunt. Address is P.O. Box 30172 in Edmond, Oklahoma, 73003. I am a part owner in several of the properties that surround this property. I have the building that the church is located in, along with the bingo hall and the other businesses across. I also own the building next door that contains a cheerleading and dance clinic for small girls. And they are highly opposed to a club of this nature. They have clients, kids 4 to 15 years old, all girls mainly, that dance there. Also, the church, you know, that's who they represent. They're highly opposed to it also. Whenever they came here last year to get their ABC zoning, they said that this club was going to be similar to a Chili's. That's what they kept making reference to at the city council meeting, was this was going to be like a Chili's, and then now they want to have an adult entertainment club. So.
You're telling me that at the April 2010 meeting that they represented this as being more of a casual dining
Correct.
and an adult entertainment?
Absolutely.
And that city council may not have understood what they were approving?
We had a long discussion about the fact that this was similar to a Chili's, and they kept saying, quote, Chili's. And that's what they finally decided to approve them, the ABC for, was because this was going to be similar to a Chili's, because they were concerned about what they're going to put on I-35, because it is, visible for everybody that drives by there.
But they knew they were approving an adult entertainment.
No, it was not adult entertainment at all at that point, and I think that's the reason that it was put in the way it was, is so they could get their ABC and then they could come back and ask for their adult entertainment.
So the ABC gives them the opportunity or the permission to
serve beer only.
Alcohol. But
Beer
it does
only.
not do anything that defines the activity or anything else.
Oh, that's a separate matter altogether.
So the use is allowed by the zoning?
The club use is allowed. They have ABC3 zoning, which gives them the ability to serve beer, wine, and mixed beverage.
How about the adult entertainment? How's that
Adult
regulated?
Entertainment is a conditional use. If you meet the conditions in the code, you can do that. And in this case, a church has moved in within one of those conditions is you have to be 500 feet away from a church, school, and in this case, a church
According to the
moved in.
zoning, it can't be within 500 feet of the church.
Right.
I understand that, but if it's a conditional use, don't you have to have a special use permit to do it then?
No.
You don't?
It's just reviewed at the time of the building permit.
I see.
That they meet those conditions
I see.
for adult entertainment.
Oh, okay.
Would invite any of the other gentlemen that are here forward. If you would, your name and address for the record.
My name is Pastor Eric, 1324 Southwest 107th Place. I'm the pastor of the church that went in. We're a multi-campus church. We chose this area for a reason. We felt like it was a place where we really wanted to grow in. We're a regional campus. We have attenders from Norman, Midwest City, Dale City, more that attend this. Our attenders from Norman and more get off the highway at that exit to enter onto 44th Street to come into the service road. We're great with them doing business there. We just don't feel like adult entertainment is what we need in the neighborhood that we're trying to revitalize and restore. We support businesses in that area. We believe in businesses in that area. We want to see businesses come to that area, but adult entertainment is an entirely different thing for us. To support in that venture there.
How long is your lease?
We have a 3-year lease with a 3-year extension, and we just got that completed. We spent a little bit over $400,000 to get into that location. We have the church there, and then we also have intention, has been zoned that way, to put in a daycare preschool program as well that's attached with the church.
Is your long-range plan to be there in excess of 6 years?
Our long-range plan would be to buy the building and have the entire building as a church, yes. That's why we invested the kind of money we did in the property. We have 35,000 square feet of that building and would love to have more as we grow. We're a multi-campus. We also have the First Christian building that we do the ribbon cutting on today at 10th and Robinson. We have a location in Shawnee as well.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else from the public that would wish us to address this application? Sir? Okay. Would invite the applicant back.
To briefly respond to what was said, I spoke to Mr. Elledge about this, and as far as the issue about being a Chili's or something, he said that wasn't what was ever discussed at the time. This was brought up before, and when the ABC was approved, that at the time there was discussion about it being a bar, and in fact it was brought up that if the hotel next to it wanted to put in a bar, it would be readily approved. So the whole intent all along has been to put a bar. Since that time, the area wouldn't really support other types of bars, and the only thing that's being asked for at this time is the variance to be within 500 feet of the church. And the intent is to keep it from, I believe the intent of the code is to keep it from interfering with church activities or anything like that. Here, you're across the 6-lane interstate highway with one-direction traffic. This club would not be open during the time the church is having services, which the applicants have been observing what's going on over there. The only time anybody is using that facility is on Sunday mornings. The club certainly won't be open during that time. Granted, it may be somewhere in proximity to a gymnastics or a dance facility, but by code and by statute, that's not an exclusion to where it can be. And the only issue is with the 500-foot variance for the church. And here, the hardship far outweighs any inconvenience to the church, because there aren't similar areas that it can be placed in, that this has the traffic flow and the zoning where you could place a club such as this nature. It's not going to be something that will interfere with the church or any of their activities, because, like we said, it's across the highway. It's not even within a line of sight because of the physical elevations of the properties, and they aren't going to have any signage saying Gentlemen's Club or anything of that nature. As we said, it would only say Blue Moon Cabaret. And I think in this instance, the variance would be appropriate because of the building facilities that they would bring up and the aesthetics in the area. Additionally, the church right now is there in close proximity to the liquor store, and it's surrounded by a bingo hall that's right behind it. So, and that's a facility that is running 7 days a week with that type of operation during the afternoons and the evening times. So for those reasons, we believe that the hardship they would face by not being able to further develop this property and have the facility there far outweighs any inconvenience to the church, and we'd request approval.
A problem that I've got, and I understand what you're saying, logistically, that you wanted to do something, and it's taken quite a while to get to a certain point, you know. But the church was in a position, remodeled the building and established themselves. That took time to do that, you know, and so that took time and investment and all that kind of thing to do that at that point in time. You could have been establishing the business there, you know, much earlier. And so I guess the issue I've got is that you probably had adequate time, unless you have argument to the contrary, probably had adequate time to establish a use, but you haven't established the use yet, you know, and that wasn't part of the discussion in establishing that use. So that's kind of the problem I've got is that, you know, I'm not sure you totally got blindsided on the deal, and I think there's a time element here that could have been, you could have done something different in getting this deal going.
I believe part of their issue was being able to have financing and the capital to be able to proceed. And
but we could have this discussion a year later too. I mean, it could go on in perpetuity. You know, it could have that kind of discussion. So, I mean, they just kind of got there first, you know, and established their use. And your use is not established yet. It's not even, you're not even ready to go yet, are you?
I believe at this time they've been able to secure some investment where they could be able to start with building on the project within 60 to 90 days or something.
Right, so sometime next year you could, yeah. That's the issue I've got, is that, I mean, I understand the interstate highway issue, but we run into this quite a bit with different roads in between and, you know, and this property line issue and stuff like that, but it's still part of the codes.
And the other issue is there's simply not other areas, not other spaces around that you can place the clubs partway because of the 500-foot and the existing, and the church hasn't been there that long. They didn't realize they were getting ready to go in that area.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sorry for the circumstances to come up this way, but it seems to me that that use has established itself. You're not established yet. You're not open. You're not necessarily dependent upon that use. You know, you've already been given the ABC. You can operate a bar there. So I'm going to have to move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Register your vote. Sorry, sir, your application is denied.
Sorry.
Having no other business, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Okay.